Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to have the second part of object-oriented programming, and one of the most important feature of the basic feature of object-oriented programming, that is classes and object. As we have seen in the previous video that we have different features of object-oriented programming like classes and object, then we have inheritance, we have encapsulation, data abstraction, okay, message passing and stuff like that. So one of the feature of object-oriented programming here we have, that is classes and objects. So let's get into it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about defining classes. I'm going to talk about creating objects, data abstractions, and hiding through classes, and class, method, and self argument. Okay, so you can go through the timestamps in the description. I don't know what to put on introduction, so I kept it blank. So introduction. Till now you were writing your programs using functions. Okay, you were writing like a modular program. Like here you have the first function, you have the second function, you use both those two functions and you have your code. Okay, so till now you have used the procedure oriented technique in which you have written the program using functions or blocks of statements, okay, which is manipulating your data, okay, which you are giving the user, which you are inputting it. Okay, now however, this is not the best style to the good style to write your programs, okay, because it takes time, okay, because it takes time and stuff like that. There are multiple reasons. So there is a better version to write your programs, write your code is using classes, okay. So using object orientation, okay, using object orientation for writing your program, which makes it very short. Okay, it makes it simple, and we are going to define it, okay, in a very simple way. Okay, so let's get into it. Classes and objects. So what exactly classes and objects are? Classes and objects are the main aspects of object oriented programming. Okay, so class is a building block of Python. If you want to write Python code, so basically you're using everywhere Python classes and objects. Okay. A class, what is class? The class, it creates a new type. An object is an instance, okay, or a variable which is used to access those classes. So we create a class and then we have an object which is an instance or a variable which is created so that we can access the methods or functions which are inside the classes. Okay, so we do the same thing, just we do what is like we write all the functions inside a class. What is class? How we define a class? Okay, so classes, what it provides a blueprint or a template which using which you can which objects are created. Okay, using which an objects are created. In Python, everything is an object or an instance of some class. Okay, Python, we have everything is an object and instance of some classes. So here, what do you mean by it is an instance of some classes? Like when you were studying type, or you were studying data types, there if I have a list, okay, there if I have a list, and then I told to write like create a list, and then if I tell you to check the type of that particular variable in which you have stored the list, there as an output you're going to get what you're going to get a type class type list. Okay, let's try it out. I haven't opened my interactive shell, so just wait a minute so you can get an example what I want to say. Okay, let's move forward till that time. Okay, so how do we define classes? Here's the syntax. Okay, here's the syntax. Like we have a class name and then we define it like whatever the statements that we want to put inside it. Okay, so here's the syntax. Like we use a class keyword, then we have a name. We don't have parentheses in front of the class names. Okay, you should know that you should not have any type of parameters parentheses when you define a class name. Okay, and then we have a semicolon or just a colon. Okay, we have a shell. I hope you can see by the font. So I want to have a variable like list, and I'm going to write 1, 2 and 3 in it. Okay, so this is my list. I want to check the type of the list, so I'm going to get C. This is the thing what I was talking about. So it is class list. It is of list type, list class. Similarly, if I have a tuple like this, okay, so if I do like type tuple, So I'm going to get class tuple, whatever. Okay, so this, we were dealing with classes from start initially. Okay, we were dealing with classes, but we were not knowing how exactly we are using it, right? So this is how we are using it. So now here's the syntax, like you have a class keyword, and then you have a class name, and then you have some sort of statements inside it. Okay, this is a big block. Now, statement in the definition can be like, it can be a sequential instruction. Sequential instruction, it means if else. Okay, it can be sequential instructions means some sequence like expressions and stuff like that. Then we have decision control statements. It can be a if else block. Then it can be a loop control statements or loop statements, that is while, for. Okay, and decision controls like break and continue. And we can even include function definition. So you can have functions also, you can have loops also, you can have decision control statements also, you can have sequential instructions also inside the class. So class is universal, you can have everything inside it. But this is the best method. Okay, though this is the best method for writing your program. So you should have a class in which you should have all your functions or all your statements what you want to put inside. Okay, so what are class variables then? So variables which are defined inside class are called as class variables. What are class methods? The functions which are inside the class is called as methods. Okay, class methods are what? The functions which are inside the class, which we define inside class, are called as class methods. We will see we're going to have multiple methods, we're going to have multiple variables, of course, inside the class block. Okay, so class members can be accessed through class objects. So if I want to access the code which is inside a class, then I'm going to create object. So for creating for accessing the methods or the members, so these are all the members. Who are members? The variables, the methods, these are all the members of the class. Okay, so we can access these by using class objects. We will see how do we define objects also. So this was defining classes. The next slide, I guess, we're going to have how do we define objects. So class methods have access to all the data which is contained in the instance of these objects. So if so class method is going to access all the data which is there in that instance of the object. We will see how do we do it. So here we have the creating objects. How do we create objects? Once a class is defined, the new job is to create an object. So we have a class where we have all the functions, we have all the statements that we want to be there inside our program. So once we define a class, the next job is to create an object that is also called as an instance of that particular class. So how do we create a object? We create an object using a dot operator. So the object that can access the class variables and class method, that is class members, using dot operator. Okay, how do we do that? We will do that like this, like object name, we're going to use a variable, and then we're going to have a class name with a parenthesis. This is important over here, that we're going to use a parenthesis over here, not when we define class. Okay, then creating an object or instance of a class is known as class instantiation. Okay, whatever the pronunciation is. So we create an object, we create an instance, that is called as this process, the object name and class name. This creation is called as class instantiation. Okay, so now the syntax of accessing a class member through a class object is like this. Now if I want to access a member from that particular class, so I'm going to do like this, like object name, whatever the variable which I have given to that class, whatever the object that I have created, and the member of that particular class, Let's get to interactive shell so that I can tell you more about it, like creating a class. Let's say we have a class, let's say ABC. Okay, we have a class ABC. There we have a variable 10. So this is a statement, right? This is a statement. We have a variable class variable. So this is a class variable, that is var 10. Now this is the creation of class. Now I want to create an object. So how do I create an object? Using an object. Let's say I have a variable, that is object. Now how do I create an object? Like ABC, the class name with a parenthesis. So this is how I create an object. Now I want to print whatever the stuff is there in that particular class. So what do? I put the print statement and I say like object. So if I want to access the variable which is inside the class, so I'm going to do object dot var. Okay, so this is how it's going to work. Okay, let me just save it as class intro. Okay, and let's save it. Yes, sorry for that. Okay, now let us run this. So here we are, we get the value 10 from our program. Okay, so if I want to access the members of the class, I'm going to use dot operator and whatever the members I want to use. Okay, so this is how we do it. Moving towards the next. The next is data abstraction and hiding classes. Data abstraction, what is data abstraction? The word only says that how do we extract the data which is inside the class. So how do we do that? Let's see the process. Refer to the processes by which data and functions are defined in such a way that only essential details are provided to the outside world and the implementation details are hidden. So what is data abstraction? We are abstracting the data. Okay, here we are just going to provide the stuff that is essential. Okay, okay, yes, essential details are only provided to the outside world, and how do I implement it? I'm not going to show it, that will be hidden. So that is data abstraction. It is any entity which is outside the world does not know how the implementation details of the class or that method has been there. Okay, so same is data encapsulation. What is the encapsulation? That is means data hiding. We're going to hide the data. Okay, it is also called as a data hiding, and it organizes the data and methods into a structure that prevents data access by any functions. Okay, so if I want to say that I don't want this function to be, you know, accessed by outer world of that scope of that class, I don't want this function to be accessed after the scope of this class. So I'm going to encapsulate it. How do I going to encapsulate that function or method? We're going to see. Okay, so this ensures the integrity of the data content. So Python, or let's say or object oriented programming, has this advantage that we can abstract, we have a data abstraction, what is essential that to be provided, and we have data encapsulation, the thing that is not having the access, I don't want to provide it to us. That is like in C or C++ or C++, we have public, private and protected. Here also we are going to have public and private. Okay, so this is an advantage of object oriented programming, that it ensures the integrity of the data which is contained, because data is very important for now. Okay, so how data encapsulation, which is continued. So encapsulation defines the different access levels of data variables. Okay, encapsulation have different levels, like public, private and protected, or public, protected, private. Okay, so these access levels specify the access rights. For example, okay, for example, for now, you know, when we were studying file handling in my previous videos, there we had access modes. So this is different, access modes and access rights or access levels. Access modes were like in which mode you want to open your file, in the writing mode or the read mode, okay, or append mode. But here we have access levels. Access levels, rights, which right are you talking about? Okay, so we have two in Python, that is public and private. So any data or function with access level public, okay, with access level public, can be accessed by function belonging to any class. Okay, this can be accessed, the thing that is public is being accessed by everyone in the class or outside the scope of the class also. Okay, but we have the second level of access, that is access level, that is any data or function with access level private can be accessed only by the class, okay, in which it is declared. So we have a class block, there we have said that this function or this method or this particular variable is private, so we are only able to access that particular variable on that scope of the class. Okay, so any data function with access level private can be accessed only by class in which it is declared. It is the highest level of protection. So it is the highest level of protection in Python, and public is the lowest level of data protection in Python. Okay, so in Python we how do I assign, like this is the private level and this is the public level. So in private Python, private level is prefixed with a double underscore, as you can see over here. So this variable which is having a double underscore in front, okay, prefixed to it, prefixed is double underscore, then this is called as a private variable. And if we don't have anything, then we say it is a public variable. Okay, so if I try to access this particular thing outside the scope of the class, then I'm going to get an error like you tried out. Okay, you tried out, and tell me in the comment section that what type of error you get when you try to access the variable which is private. Okay, you will get to know. Okay, so what are methods? You know methods. Okay, methods are what? These are the functions which are inside class. Now, class methods and self argument. Self argument, you might not know what self argument is, but it is the most important method, or sorry, it is the most important argument which is there in the class. Let's see. First of all, class methods. Class methods are exactly same as ordinary functions that we have been defining, but with a slight difference. What is the difference? In class method, we have an extra argument, that is the first argument, that must be the first argument, that is self. So the class method must have self as the first argument in it. Okay, the class method I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the variables. Okay, so the first method, if you are declaring that first method, or the class method must have the first argument as self. Okay, so this is the first argument that is to be added at the beginning of the parameter. All the parameters that you put inside that particular method, the first must be self. Moreover, you do not pass a value to this parameter when you call the method. When you call the method outside the scope of this class or in the main program, you don't put the value for the self, or you don't put the self keyword. Okay, we will see. If you don't understand, just wait. We're going to take an example for understanding this self keyword. Okay, moreover, you do not pass a value for this parameter when you call the method. Python provides it automatically. Okay, the value is being assigned automatically. Here's an example. Like we have a class ABC, as we have taken before, and we have a variable 10 as we had before, but now I have my method, that is the function which is inside the class, as display self. You can see over here I have the first argument as self, and that is very much compulsory. Okay, so then we have a print statement which says in class method, and if I try to then we have created an object that then I set you to print like this, like print the variable, and then I called the method which is inside that class. So you can see here, like the var, this var over here and this display over here, both are accessed using the dot operator. That is very much important. But there is one difference between both the object creation, let us say object accessing of objects. Like here we have parenthesis in the method when we are having the method, and here we don't have any parenthesis. And here you can see, like, we are not having any type of argument when we call for that particular method outside the class. Okay, so the self initialization of self takes place when it comes to calling of an method from a class. Okay, is that clear? Now output will be, first we are printing object.var, that is going to be printing 10, and then we say to display, we call the display function or the display method from the class. So it's going to how it is going to what I mean is how it is going to work. See, object. So object variable is created, and then we have a function, we have a class which is ABC. So it is going to search for a class ABC and it's going to initialize that. Yes, whenever I'm going to have the access for this class, I'm going to use an object obj variable. Then I see the next line, like print object. So object is nothing but with class, I'm going to move to class, and then I have to print the variable which is inside that particular class. So I print that variable which is 10, and then I go to the third line of the main program, that is object.display. So I move to object, that is the class, and then I find the display function or display method, and then I print it. Okay, so one of the most important thing that you need to understand, that this is the main program, not this is the main program. So the pointer or the compiler is going to start compiling your program from this line, not this line. Okay, so this is important. First you're going to run the main program, and then you're going to run the class, whatever. Okay, moving forward. Okay, so this is it for this video. In the next video I'm going to talk about the constructor, that is the init method, one of the most important method when you study classes, because every class must have a init, that is initialization method in your program. Every class must have. Okay, so we're going to study in it. Okay, and further we're going to study class variables and object variables, and we will see more stuff. We're going to see more examples in the next video. Okay, if you don't see more codes over here, it's okay, we're going to have more codes. Okay, thanks for watching. Do subscribe so that you get notified when I update videos. Okay, I add more videos, and like and share. Okay, thank you.